So here we are in our valley on Priceless Farms, and we are standing in the midst of the Ventree plantation, which is a beta plantation. We're basically testing a financial model which will allow people from all over the world to invest in sustainable agroforestry. And so we're beginning with the Lira tree because it's one of the world's most resilient, hardy trees. It doesn't require any chemical sprays to protect it from insects, so it's resilient to ants. It's also highly capable of surviving dry seasons. We've seen this tree go through periods of 4 months without any rain, heavy sun. Even at a seedling stage, they survive. So it's one of the most beautiful trees in the sense that it's very easy and it has a very high survival rate. It also grows incredibly fast. So these Lira trees behind me are just almost 1 year old now. And we have about 25,000 trees behind me on a 10-acre block. So we've done a very intense 1.5 meter grid spacing. And the reason for doing this is because there's a local pullwood market, and when you grow them very tightly like this, the trees grow very straight and tall in their early years. So you set off a very good straight timber. And then after about 2 years, each of these trees will be worth about $1 on the local market, and you can come in and you can cull out the ones that are maybe not looking so perfect, or they don't have exactly perfect straight poles, but they're used in local construction, what we call light construction and craft woods. And these have immediate local markets. Even in this district that we're in, we can sell them for about $1 a piece wholesale. And the local shop owners who would be buying these will then sell them on for about $1.50, $1.60 for local people to be able to build their houses with, their huts, their roofs, and so on. And this is a prolific market in Uganda that we're after. Now, after you've cut the initial 50%, with Lira, what ends up happening, just like eucalyptus and many other species, it regrows. And when it regrows, which is what we call coppicing, so you continuously keep harvesting, it'll send up anywhere between 5 to 10 new shoots. So you wait a few months. Meanwhile, as these new shoots are coming up, the trees which you haven't cut are continuing to grow. And they grow much faster at that stage because there's 50% less shade, there's 50% less root competition in the plantation. So you're actually giving a boost to the trees that you don't cut. You're giving a boost to your bank account. Technically, we should be able to double the investment by year 2 by selling at $1 a piece. And then you're also allowing the new growth to come back up. So over a period of another 1 year, year and a half, with the 10 new shoots, you cut off about 8 of them, or you reduce it down to 2 new shoots. Okay, I hope you're following the math. It gets a little bit convoluted, but maybe there's some graphics here. So you have 2 new shoots for all of those trees, which means now the regrowth, you're getting about 50,000 new pullwood trees. Now you can choose at this point if you want to go in and continue pulling out larger poles, or you want to leave the 25,000 trees that are remaining. Remember, they're now at a 3 meter spacing, because if you started with 1.5 meter and you cut out half, then you now have a 3 meter spacing, okay? And that's pretty good, but even then, we would still want to come in around year 3, year 4, and cut down some of those bigger trees now, which are now worth $5 to $10 each, and you can cut about half of those, so you're getting about 12,500. You cut those down, again, you get a very good income from that. And then the remaining 12,500, which are left over, and I'm talking about an original plantation of 50,000, not an original plantation of 25,000 now. You then sell off around year 5, year 6, you sell them for anywhere between $30 to $70. Okay, that's generally the range you're going to get. Lira is a hardwood. It's on the lower scale of the hardwoods, but it has a very nice heartwood, meaning that it has a really nice color to it, just like mahogany, very similar to teak. And because of its resilience, because of the timber pliability in terms of craft wood, it's very well, it's very workable for carpenters to be able to make furniture from. And the most beautiful thing that I love the most is that it's pest resistant. It's resistant to termites. And termites in Africa and tropical countries like Uganda are so prolific. We actually planted, I'm going to walk over this way if you can pan with me. This is our first year planting, and we had a drought season, and these ones all survived the drought. Now here we have another 10 acres, which is the lower half of our plantation, and you can see that these are younger trees here. So this also has 25,000 seedlings in it. They're going to be hard to see in the video, but they're there. And so these ones are struggling to come up. We had actually originally, at the same time that we planted the 25,000 giant lira over here, we had planted this area with eucalyptus, South African eucalyptus, and it all died in the dry season, even with watering. Termites, ants, they eat them. We didn't spray them. We don't want any chemicals on our land. We're strictly organic. And they all died. So we actually had to replant this. We said, you know what? We're not going to do eucalyptus anymore. It's too susceptible to bugs. It's weak in the dry weather. And it requires, quite frankly, it requires chemicals. So we say, you know what? Let's go. We collected all the seeds from our site. We did our nurseries. We waited a few months for the rains to come back. And boom, we did a second planting, which is actually the third planting on this plot of Lira. Okay? And now about 90%, 80% of these have survived. And we're gap filling because we have a lot of nurseries, because we have hundreds of thousands of seeds from our primary farm, our mother farm up on the hill, producing every season. We're getting massive amounts of seed, putting it into our nursery and doing our gap filling. And so the Ventree program is really about that resilient, I would say climatically and culturally relevant forestry. So you'll notice that in between the trees, there's a lot of space. So phase 2, after establishing the trees, is now to come in here and bring in farmers from the local area who can take parcels of this land and grow staple crops. They can grow pumpkins, they can grow beans, they can grow yams, they can grow any manner of vegetable in here, because unlike pine and eucalyptus and other exotic, what we call exotic trees, which are not indigenous to Africa, the Lira also allows other plants to grow. If you actually pan back over this way, you can see here where we haven't been weeding for a while. It's the wet, rainy season right now. So weeding in here is very difficult because this is a heavy clay soil. And we use hose, manual hose. And so the clay soil gets stuck to the hose. So during the rainy season, we kind of let the weed growth come up, which is okay because it's aerating the soils. And when we do get around to weeding this, all that green manure, you can see in between the trees here, there is a massive amount of production going on there. The Lira tree, just hang tight. Let me grab a branch. The Lira tree has a very sparse leaf structure, which means that a lot of sunlight gets through. So you're not going to grow a full sun crop, but you can grow pretty much any crop that can deal with partial sun. Okay, so ground cover plants like pumpkins. I'm sure even eggplants will do well in here. Chilies will do well in here. There's probably 50 to 60 different types of herbaceous shrubs growing in here right now. And quite frankly, they're loving it. Especially since we're turning the soil every time we weed. I think what we've done is we've actually unlocked a lot of seed bank, which is in that soil traditionally. And that's all been running off from the upper land into this valley over millennia. Now here, I've got a first pruning. So I've just ripped off a branch. I would normally use a machete or prunes. But here I've ripped off a branch, and I'm just going to show you something. When you come back after about a month, that branch of the Lira tree, the benefits just keep getting better. That branch of the Lira tree, which was here, has actually regrown new shoots coming off of it. And we're testing this theory right now, but our belief is, with a little bit of root stimulator or even just enough water in the ground, you can now plant this and you have 2 new trees from one branch. And if you look at the tree, you're getting dozens and dozens of branches during the first set of pruning and the second set of pruning. So the multiplication factor on the Lira tree is so powerful, it's so strong, that I believe that this crop, this particular species, can actually solve the firewood and the light timber and the light construction issues with regards to forestry in Africa. And this can be planted in desert climates. I mean, this is the hardiest tree I've ever seen. When we have had our worst drought seasons here, and the rest of the farm becomes completely dry, bone dry, the Lira tree is just standing there, fully green, beautiful taproot going way down into the subsoils, and it's resilient. It just keeps growing. So it is our favorite tree beside moringa. And it's taking a very strong place in my heart as a designer as well, because this is a tree that I can take with me to every single community that I go to. And so instead of those families now going into traditional national forests or old growth forests or jungles and foraging for firewood and foraging for construction timber and even firewood for building the bricks, a lot of people don't understand that when you look at a brick building in Africa, what you're actually seeing is a bunch of dead trees, because in order to fire those bricks, they're cutting down a lot of trees. They use a lot of timber to burn one stack of bricks. We're talking about large trees. And most of those large trees right now are in the forest reserves. So by providing an alternative through the Ventree model, we're giving these farmers the ability to quickly get a forest cover on their land as investors with money, with capital. We're giving them the opportunity to get forest cover on their land, which does not suppress their existing ability to grow staple foods for themselves. Just using the Lira tree as an example, it's going to solve the deforestation issues that we're all worried about. I'm quite sure that the carbon sequestration that's happening in this plantation, in this particular species, in this type of a plantation, is very high. I would put it up there beside bamboo, maybe a little bit lower than bamboo. Bamboo is prolific, as you know. But unlike bamboo, you can grow food between this crop. So the benefits to this tree just go on and on and on. I mean, we could do a whole movie about this, and it's feeling like it's getting there. But anyways, there's the Lira tree. This is a beautiful tree, and we're going to continue to research it. We're going to continue to manage this plantation. We're going to continue to prove that investing in smallholder farmers like this and small agricultural plots like this can change the world, and it can put money in your pocket. The Ventree model is based on actual profits, true profits. This is not a charitable foundation. We are very serious about how we manage the plantations. We're very serious with who we select to come on board and how they do it. If people don't perform, just like any other company, you're fired. You can't do a plantation if you're not a serious worker. And so we put them through training. And when we complete the project on this site, and we see that this 20 acres here, this 10 acres here, when we complete the project on this site, and we see that this 20-acre plantation, which is our beta plantation, our test plantation, is successful, then we're going to expand. And now this model can go to anybody else's farm. This model can accept money from anyone in the world with an online bank account. We can take any type of credit. That's our objective, is to be able to take any type of currency and turn it into trees and turn it into profits for you and your family and your community, to be able to say, look, we're going to change the planet, and we're going to do this together as one family with one giant internet network, helping us to bridge the gap between the haves and the have-nots, and do it in speed. Okay? There's hundreds of thousands of nurseries across Africa that are trying to sell seedlings to farmers who lack the capital finance to get going. Ventree is speeding up the ability for local farmers to get access to seedlings, access to knowledge, and access to tools to begin their plantations. And you as the investor are being rewarded for that in actual cash payouts, because this is a monitored system. Every Ventree plantation will be strictly monitored by field agents who visit the plantations on a daily and weekly and monthly basis, recording every little step of the journey. We have lost well over 50,000 seedlings in order to establish 50,000 seedlings. We are not going to give up, and neither will the farmers, because the truth is these people live here full time. So every day, you can see one of our managers back here, Alex, he's planting and he's replanting, he's assessing, he's coming with the problems, we're sitting down, we're talking about the solutions, and we're pushing on. Currently, you can see in the background here, we've gotten a lot of flooding because this is a valley, and this was expected. We originally planted the Lira here in favor of Moringa because I've seen flooding in the valley before, and Moringa does not do well in floods. So right now we have an excessive amount of water, and so we're going to see, are these seedlings going to survive this flood? It looks like they're doing okay. We can see some yellowing on the leaves. We know that no tree of this nature likes to be underwater for too long, but we believe that it's going to work. And the benefits go on. You can see the goats in the background. So we're using the goats to weed the acres now, and with some electric fencing and perhaps a motorized tiller, we can get even better and even more effective at managing this plantation, and we can bring the costs down. So this first plantation, yes, it's costing a little bit more than we would expect, but eventually as we perfect the systems and as we increase our holdings and as we increase, we're looking at basically creating a global tree bank in Africa where deforestation is rampant, human resource is excessive. We have so many people sitting around looking for what to do, and quite frankly, it's one of the best places in the world where you can invest your money now because it's new territory. And the land is not expensive still. The nature is very conducive to good growth. So we really believe in this project, and it's something that's come out of over 10 years of looking at the global sustainability crisis that's going on and the ecosystem crises that we're facing. And then also taking a look at the technology that's available to us now as a species and say, hey, let's use the internet for planting trees. Let's use all this spare money and all this extra money that everybody has for planting trees, and let's give their money back to them 10 times over in a 6-year or a 3-year or a 4-year or even a 5-month period, depending on what type of tree. So going from Lira trees and going from the concept of trees, when you say agroforestry, you're not only talking about trees, we're talking about the understory, we're talking about chickens, we can free range cattle eventually in through this property. We're about to start doing that, to bring people's cattle in, and they can move through and eat the weeds. So you can take the same concept of investing in trees and you can apply it to different systems. And that's when you start to see a very dynamic app where it's literally like Farmville, but in real time with real people at real places with real money and real returns. And I think that's exciting. To me, this is the most exciting project that I've started to work on, and I believe in it 100%. Because I've been living here in East Africa now for over 12 years, and I've been doing the sustainable agriculture thing for about 10 out of those years, 9 to 10 years here. And from what I've experienced, I know this can work. I know the capacity these people have, and that we can pull out of the out of the literate students who are coming out of universities to become our trainers, to become our managers, and to monitor and evaluate and check and balance all the different aspects of what it takes to run a sustainable farm in a community which, quite frankly, like the community we have here, is very destitute. I mean, when we first came here, these people were in dire poverty, absolute, the worst of the worst type of poverty. Living season to season, hand to mouth. If there's a bad season, there's no food on the table. So they go to charcoal, they cut down large trees that don't belong to them. It's illegal. They're getting arrested all the time for these things by the landlords who are coming up and checking on their land. They're seeing their land being degraded over time. We're able to reverse all of that, lift them out of poverty. Within a 6-month period in a Ventree plantation, you are literally taking families and families out of poverty in rapid succession. And if we get this going and we build a global network of Ventree investors who are all truly making money, we do not allow the investor to suffer losses. Any and all losses that happen on a Ventree plantation are incurred by the company itself, which has shares, and by the farmers and by the landlords, because they are the people on the ground who are responsible for doing the work. And if the work is not being done effectively, they are the ones who are going to incur the losses. So no matter what your investment is with Ventree, we give a 100% guarantee that you are the first one to receive the money that you were promised based on the trajectory and the projections that were given for that investment over that crop, whatever that crop may be. If it's Lira, if it's free-range chickens, chicken eggs, honey from honeybees, you name it, we're going to blow this thing out into pretty much all aspects of a sustainable farm. and we're going to put it online as soon as possible. We're looking for more investors. We're looking for, you know, you and your friends and your family, anybody with a couple extra bucks to throw into, you know, global cooling systems. This is what we're doing out here. So yeah, I hope that's informative for you. Thanks for your time, and we're going to go take a look at more flooding. That was